Hey, so this topic, how to feed the soul, a food guide, came from a question in one of the comments. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I love to explore different ideas that you're thinking about. So a couple things to keep in mind when exploring how to eat. And I'd say from the bigger perspective, from the highest point of view, what you consume is more than food. This body is our temple. It houses our soul. It houses God. And so we want to treat it with as much respect and admiration as we can. Don't go too crazy into that. Of course, like everything, balance. If you find yourself in a situation where you can't eat healthy food per se, or you're just limited in your resources, do the best you can, and that's the best you can do, and don't stress out about it. I was actually having this conversation with my soul the other night. I was asking what I should do to raise my frequency, clean out my aura, and my soul said, clean food in, clean inputs equals clean outputs. So the cleaner and purer everything we're taking in, whether it be what we're watching, what we're eating, what we're doing, how we're being, anything that we can control that we're eating, try and keep it as clean and pure as possible. So with regards to food specifically, it is a completely personal, individual exploration. There is no one size fits all diet. It depends where you're at spiritually, emotionally, physically, all these different things, what your goals are. Everybody has a unique diet they should follow. And really it comes down to awareness. After you eat something, you can keep a food journal and wait 15-20 minutes and write down how you feel. When you eat food that agrees with your system, you'll feel good, you'll feel light. And when you eat food that pulls you down, you'll feel heavy and sluggish and like you want to take a nap. So that is the first takeaway. Another thing to look at is, what are your ancestral genetics? Because our genetics actually plays a role in what we crave and what food we can handle. If you think about the Eskimos in the Arctic, they eat primarily whale fat and meat. There's no vegetables growing in the Arctic Circle. It's just not part of the environment. So their bodies are going to develop over years and generations how to digest this food. If you think of a cow, it only eats grass, and it has 4 stomachs to digest all of this plant material. It takes a long time. And similarly, in humans, it was studied that people from the equator have a longer intestinal tract. Their tube from the mouth to the butt, it's going to be longer than someone from the northern parts of the world where they get less sun, less summertime, less vegetables and fruits. And actually, when I work with people, I have a questionnaire I'll send them, and it'll help them to figure out what type of diet, either equestrian, or more equator diet, or more Nordic, more northern diet. And so depending on your ancestry, you should eat more plants with a little bit of meat, or more meat with less plants. And then once you get into the higher and higher realms, once you develop further spiritually, I know one of my mentors, actually multiple of my mentors, don't eat meat at all. And they are heavy into the plant medicine and serving that. So they actually cut out all meat. Occasionally they might have a little bit, but for the most part, it's all plant-based. And one of my teachers, he actually can get away with a complete fruitarian diet. At least when he lives in certain places. I know when he lives in Maui or Hawaii or Bali, these places, he can get organic, fresh fruits, and that's all he needs to eat. And when he's in America, he has to eat salads and more vegetables to get that mineral side of the diet. Because once you start looking into food, you realize most of our food is poisoned with glyphosate and pesticides. All these things, it's not real organic food. And also, fruit should be eaten when it's ripe off of the tree. And instead, what we do in most of the world, in the modern world, is we pick it 2 weeks early and then ship it somewhere, and then by the time it gets there, it gets ripe. But the problem with that is there are actually compounds that are released to protect the fruit from the sun that we absorb to protect our skin from the sun. But when you pick it early, you don't get that, and all the other aspects of the fruit, it's not the same. So that's why he can get away with eating fruit when it's fresh off the trees, versus when he's in America, he can't do that. So he's got to change his diet a little bit. Thought that was interesting. For the most part though, you want to eat clean, whole foods. On my website, there is a food guide, and the comment that was left said it is simple but based. Appreciate that. And it's simple for a reason, because it's so personal. What you eat is so determined by you. And the basics though, you want to eat organic, whole foods, anything that is real, anything that you can find in nature is going to be healthy. You can't find a pack of Oreos in nature. And so just cutting out the things that are processed really helps you feel better. And then it's coming to mind all the things like fasting, water fast, juice fasts, cleanses. Those are all great, and that would require its own little video. That could be a whole channel unto itself. So keeping this in food, yeah, just really eat whole, real food as much as you can. And do your best. Don't stress out. If I lived in a food desert for a summer, I did an internship in Erie, Pennsylvania, and there was no real food. I had to drive for 30 minutes to go to a real grocery store and stock up on food. All the food places around where I was living, it's just all packaged noodles and cans and just trash. It's empty calories that your body doesn't absorb that well, and which is why so many of us are obese, because our body absorbs all this toxic food, and then to protect itself, it just holds it in the fat until we have the resources to detoxify our body, in which case You need to be eating healthy and have the availability to do that. Food is an interesting one. I've seen and worked with people that were addicted to food, and it is a tough one to break. It is one of the hardest. It's related to your root chakra, your sense of survival. You feel threatened by the world. You don't feel safe. You don't feel like you have the resources or the ability to provide for yourself on a subconscious level. So you are always trying to fill that void with food. And the reason it's so hard is because we have to eat. We have to eat food. Every day you're going to come across this problem. Whereas if you're an alcoholic, you don't have to drink alcohol to survive. But with a food addict, you have to eat food. So every day you're confronted with this. And that's not to say it's not possible to overcome. It's just, it's going to be a deep, with the word I want to use, issue. It's going to be a deep trauma that you need to look into and work through. Food is so fascinating. Someday, 1,000 years from now, maybe we'll be able to absorb light and not have to eat food. But for now, it's quite a conundrum because everybody has to eat. Whenever I encounter the non-dual folks that pretend like they don't exist, my question to them is always, did you eat today? You can pretend you're as empty as a ghost, but inevitably, I know you ate some food sometime. You just have to. You have to. Life eats life. One of the laws of this realm. So I hope that maybe gave you some breakdown of how I approach food and different layers and levels. If you want to work one-on-one, if you're interested in the ancestral survey that I offer people, reach out, jordanjdragon.com. Check out that food guide, some simple but useful tools in there. Have a great day. Much love.